Picture facing an animal taller than a basketball hoop. It weighs as much as several family cars combined. Two enormous tusks curve forward like sharpened traffic barriers. You have no rifle, metal blade, or emergency helicopter. Your equipment is wood, stone, bone, and extremely nervous friends. Somehow, ancient hunters still brought these giants down. So, were our ancestors fearless superheroes with excellent fur coats? Probably not, because fearless hunters usually became very flat hunters. Their real advantage was preparation, cooperation, and knowledge. A mammoth hunt was never a fair one-on-one fight. It was a carefully planned team operation with terrible consequences, but archaeology cannot replay the hunt like a security camera. It leaves us bones, broken tools, footprints, and scattered clues. We rarely find the exact moment when a weapon struck. That makes some popular hunting stories much shakier than they look. A mammoth, besides stone tools, was not automatically hunted. People sometimes found, butchered, or scavenged animals already dead. Cut marks can reveal butchery, but not always the killing method. Embedded weapon fragments provide stronger evidence of an actual attack. Even then, one wound does not reveal the entire strategy. North American Clovis sites offer some of the clearest evidence. Their distinctive fluted stone points appear beside several mammoth carcasses. Eurasian sites preserve other points, bones, and signs of processing. There was never one universal mammoth hunting instruction manual. Different hunters face different mammoths, landscapes, climates, and technologies. First, consider the animal they were trying to defeat. A woolly mammoth could weigh roughly 4 to 6 tons. Some North American mammoths grew even larger than their woolly cousins. Thick hide, fat, hair, and muscle protected the body underneath. An angry adult also carried tusks longer than many people. Chasing one across open ground was an impressively bad career plan. Successful hunters first learned to read the landscape. Tracks revealed direction, speed, group size, and recent movement. Dung and damaged vegetation showed how recently mammoths had passed. Experienced trackers could follow information invisible to an untrained observer. They learned seasonal routes between water, food, and sheltered ground. That knowledge helped hunters choose the encounter before it began. They likely preferred manageable opportunities over the largest healthy bull. A separated, injured, young, or exhausted animal reduced the danger, yet even a vulnerable mammoth remained several tons of furious muscle. Preparation therefore began long before anyone raised a spear. Toolmakers selected stone that fractured into sharp, predictable edges. They shaped points through repeated strikes and careful pressure flaking. A broken point meant hours of work lost before breakfast. The stone tip was only one component of a complete weapon. Hunters attached it to a shaft using carefully fitted bindings. Wood supplied reach, while stone or bone supplied penetration. Replaceable foreshafts may have made damaged weapons easier to repair. Think modular technology, except every upgrade could stab you. Some weapons were thrust directly at dangerously close range. Others may have been thrown by hand from slightly safer distances. Spear throwers later increased speed, range, and penetrating power. However, archaeologists still debate which systems accompanied particular mammoth kills. Clovis points are especially famous, sharp, fluted, and beautifully made. Their central groove probably helped attach the point securely. Yet their exact use remains surprisingly difficult to prove. Some impact damage suggests that many served as projectile tips. One newer hypothesis gives them an even more dramatic job. Hunters may have braced long pikes against the ground. A charging mammoth would then provide the weapon's crushing force. Essentially, the mammoth could become the engine of its own injury. It sounds clever, terrifying, and extremely unfriendly to volunteers. Replica experiments show that braced points can penetrate tough hide, but no complete Clovis pike has survived for confirmation, so the planted pike idea remains plausible, not proven. Ancient hunters probably adapted their weapons to each opportunity. The same point could potentially pierce, cut, and butcher. Weapons mattered, but getting close enough mattered even more. That required patience rather than a screaming charge across the tundra. Hunters watched the herd before choosing any target. Mammoths were social animals capable of protecting threatened group members. Attacking the center of a herd invited immediate disaster. Hunters instead needed separation, confusion, or a natural obstacle. Streams, slopes, muddy ground, and narrow passages offered useful advantages. Soft ground could slow several tons of rapidly moving animal. A steep bank could restrict turning and reduce escape routes. Snow, wind, and visibility also changed the hunter's options. The landscape became part of the weapon system. However, the famous giant pit trap deserves serious skepticism. Digging one large enough required enormous labor and careful concealment. The mammoth also had to step into exactly the correct hole. Apparently, prehistoric elephants did not respect carefully prepared schedules. Natural bogs or depressions were far more practical than giant pits. Hunters may have exploited animals already slowed by difficult terrain. Driving mammoths over cliffs is another frequently repeated image. Such drives were possible in principle, but evidence remains uneven. No single dramatic method explains every confirmed mammoth site. The strongest reconstruction combines terrain, weapons, tracking, and teamwork. Every participant needed a role before the dangerous approach began. Confusion among hunters would be much deadlier than confusion among mammoths. Scouts first tracked the target and reported its movement. Other hunters positioned themselves along likely escape routes. Everyone needed to understand the plan without a written group chat. Gestures, calls, and practiced signals could coordinate the approach. Depending on terrain, several people might pressure the animal sideways. Their goal was separation, not an uncontrolled stampede. Panicking an entire herd could reverse the danger instantly. Once isolated, the target had fewer defenders and directions available. Hunters still needed to enter the mammoth's dangerous striking range. A poorly timed step could meet a tusk or crushing foot. The first attack probably aimed to weaken, not instantly kill. One hand-thrown spear rarely stops several tons of moving muscle. Multiple penetrating wounds could cause bleeding, pain, and exhaustion. Hunters could strike, retreat, reposition, and attack again. This was less heroic duel and more extremely hazardous teamwork. The front offered tusks, trunk, speed, and several terrible options. Approaching from different sides divided the mammoth's attention. Hunters may have targeted areas where penetration was more achievable. Unfortunately, the mammoth was also trying to target them. A sudden charge could scatter the entire hunting party. That is where prepared routes and natural barriers became essential. Hunters needed open escape paths that the mammoth could not follow. Rocks, trees, slopes, or soft ground could create those openings. If braced pikes were used, a charge created another opportunity. The hunter planted the shaft and relied on the animal's momentum. That method still required standing near an approaching mammoth. Calling it safe would be doing impressive work with language. Projectile attacks offered distance but delivered less sustained force. Close thrusting delivered control while placing hunters in greater danger. Different weapons may therefore have worked together during one encounter. Archaeology preserves the points, but rarely the wooden shafts. It preserves wounds, but not the hunter's formation or commands. We should reconstruct possibilities without pretending we watched the hunt. What seems certain is that one strike was seldom enough. The animal might flee while hunters followed from a safer distance. Tracking a wounded mammoth demanded patience and careful judgment. Approaching too early could trigger another powerful charge. Waiting too long risked losing the carcass to distance or predators. Depending on the region, wolves, lions, or hyenas also wanted meat. The hunters were not the only customers waiting for dinner. Eventually, exhaustion and blood loss could slow the mammoth further. Hunters could then approach again and deliver additional wounds. The final moments were probably dangerous, messy, and far from cinematic. When the animal finally fell, the work was only beginning. A mammoth carcass was an enormous resource with an expiration problem. Butchering several tons of animal demanded another coordinated operation. Sharp flakes opened hide and separated meat from bone. Hunters likely removed valuable, accessible portions before anything spoiled. Carrying the entire mammoth home was usually impossible and unnecessary. Cut marks on surviving bones reveal parts of this process. Stone edges dulled quickly and had to be replaced or resharpened. The meat could feed many people for a considerable time. Fat provided dense energy in cold and demanding environments. Hide could potentially become coverings, shelters, or protective material. Tendons supplied strong fibers for bindings and other equipment. Large bones sometimes became building material, tools, or fuel. Tusks could be transformed into points, handles, ornaments, and art. Still, ancient hunters did not magically use every single molecule. Time, weather, predators, transport, and hunger shaped their decisions. Some meat and bones may have been cached for later use. One successful hunt could temporarily transform a group's food security, but mammoth hunting was probably never a convenient daily activity. Ancient diets also included smaller animals, fish, and gathered plants. A giant carcass was a prize, not the entire menu. The reward was enormous precisely because the risk was enormous. Unfortunately, archaeology preserves stone and bone better than human behavior. Wooden shafts, bindings, spoken plans, and gestures usually disappeared. The famous kill sites therefore provide evidence, not complete instructions. Popular illustrations often look far more certain than science actually is. Humans probably used several methods across different times and regions. They tracked herds, selected opportunities, and exploited restrictive terrain. They combined penetrating weapons with repeated attacks and careful retreat. Braced pikes remain possible, while enormous traps remain poorly demonstrated. Above everything, hunters relied upon knowledge accumulated across generations. Trackers, toolmakers, planners, and attackers each contributed essential skills. One brave hunter confronting a mammoth alone had terrible odds. A coordinated group could turn information into a powerful weapon. That is how humans challenged animals vastly stronger than themselves. They lacked modern weapons, but they certainly did not lack technology. The mammoth had size, humans had a plan, and nervous friends. Thanks for watching. If this prehistoric showdown taught you something new or at least made you appreciate having safer dinner plans, leave a like and subscribe for more fascinating stories from our ancient past. See you in the next video.